welcome to the Mikey Likes You show, by the way. George and I talking about Christianity. How we're opening up the show with the softer topics. But I also, as someone who's not, I grew up Catholic. I'm Mexican Irish, so I was like born to be a boxer and a Catholic and an alcoholic. Some stuff I go, okay, I don't personally understand having a problem with it, but I get how if you were raised in a very religious household that you would. For instance, let me think of a good one. I can understand like trans shit if you're super religious, Judeo-Christian, traditional religions, where you'd say like, well, you're taking what God gave you and you're trying to transform it and manipulate it. Okay, so I don't agree with you. I'm not in support of it, right? But I get where you're coming from. I don't understand how anyone, I mean, I genuinely can't even put myself in the shoes of someone who gives a fuck about whether someone's gay or lesbian. Like, it's you telling me you're gay. Now, granted, I grew up in a very, from as far back as I can remember, my family had gay, not lesbian until later in like high school era, but when I was a little boy, there was we had a gay family friend, and he came to dinner and stuff with like his boyfriends. And this is the early mid 80s. So I was introduced into that, and it was very comfortable for me at a very young age. But I also, like, you telling me you're gay is like you telling me you're brunette. I'd be like, all right, what the fuck? What do I give a shit?
It's telling me you have good drugs.
You're probably buff.
Yeah, your house is probably immaculate. You're very hospitable. Yeah,
that's another thing. Now, I don't know. Is there lesbian neighborhoods? Because I know there's gay neighborhoods, and when you say West Hollywood, parts of South Beach, certainly parts of San Francisco, the Castro District, Palm Springs, now it's like legendarily gay neighborhoods, right? So I go to these places, it's 99% gay dudes, and like occasionally you see a chick, and you're like, is that a lesbian or is it?
Yeah, but that's kind of gay propaganda. I feel like.
Is it?
Because it is the best and the pinnacle of gayness. Where
being lesbian?
No. Those gays, those like gay communities.
That's true. No,
you go to the Appalachian gays are a little different.
You're totally. I'm my only experience with gay is the UFC of gay. I don't know, like local
Ready to Rumble,
local
Hooters.
Organization gay. That's true. I mean, because I grew up in Southern California, in Los Angeles County, and especially in the 80s, you'd go to Sunset Strip, and it was as advertised. Like, there was dudes with hair down to their waist, wearing makeup, and chicks with teased hair and big hoop earrings. It just covered, like Mardi Gras. On a Tuesday night, there was the glam rock thing was, like, really on and popping, right? And it was cool. So you'd go out there, and then you'd keep driving down Santa Monica Boulevard or whatever, and you'd see, like, this is gay people live here, like, almost exclusively. And you certainly, like, I lived in San Francisco for a while. You go to Castro District, and that's another thing too. Is like this is what, and this comes from an open ally. Okay, I mean this. This is not. I'm not some like red pill right wing on. Like I want the advancement of the LGBTQ community at all costs, right? Well, not at all costs. I want the advancement of the LGBTQ community. That is important to me, and I want it. And I'm happy to voice my support for it. I do think that mostly because of the internet, which is mostly the center of all negative in today's society, there's this thing about if I'm in the community, the LGBTQ community, now that can't just be who I am, right? I also have to wear a dog mask and walk my boyfriend on a leash and be taking poppers, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't think that does much positive for the community. Now, what you do at home with your boyfriend, your husband, and your girlfriend or wife, eat all the poppers, do all the crazy sex shit you want. This is and let me give you a better example. The Pride Festival, Pride parades and things in West Hollywood are probably the biggest in the world outside of San Francisco, the Castro district, right? And the Castro district became that because of guys like Harvey Milk, and it was a culture of people who drew a line in the sand. And they're like, we're just Americans like anybody else, and we're putting our foot down, and we deserve respect in the same way, right? And that's where pride developed. We're not going to be afraid anymore, right? And there's such a level of toughness. There was such a level of resilience that came with that you had to just take, even if you're like super anti-gay, like you had to take your hat off and go, wow, gotta really appreciate the size of your balls. Got Harvey Milk killed. Now, I would be overjoyed at the idea of taking my daughter at 10 years old and even younger to the Pride Parade, and going like, hey, these are gay people, and they're celebrating the fact that they're gay because we live in a society now where they can safely do that. And isn't that awesome? Right? And my daughter would probably be like, yeah, it's fucking great. But I know, because I've been there, the gay Pride Parade is very quickly up. There's going to be a guy sucking another guy's cock in an alley. I'm going to see it. And I'm going to be like, oh, what?
And I don't know which one is the correct one. Like, should the Pride Parade be this family-friendly, open, like, learning experience about the gay community? Or do they get a day, just like when a football team wins a championship, just like when people would storm the streets of Franklin Street when UNC would win a national title, to gather together, get drunk, and suck some dick in a back alley?
But to be fair, they do deserve a day. They do deserve a parade to celebrate their lifestyle and who they are as people. That's the great thing about America. You should be able to, whoever you are, openly celebrate that, right? But I've been to a lot of Laker championship parades, and I have been to
Cars on fire.
I've been to one Kings Stanley Cup parade. Yeah, there's shit I don't agree with. I ain't never seen anything where I was like, oh, a child should not be exposed to this. Besides maybe a fist fight, which is, but my point is, like, there's never been explicit stuff on display. And I think,
but it's dangerous. There's drunk people doing
that's
donuts.
True.
There's
especially hockey ones. Especially hockey ones.
Usually a gunshot or two in the air, or fireworks that sound like gunshots at least. There's open flame, glass. People not acting appropriate. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I guess it starts really nice when the open top buses comes through and the team waves. That's one thing, but then that becomes something else hours later.
Okay, look. There's no arguing that any celebratory parade is going to come with certain adult behavior that you don't want a child to be exposed to. That's a valid point. That's a very valid point. But, and again, not being a gay person who's ever had to deal with that kind of struggle, this is an outsider's point of view. This is merely speculation, but it is coming from a level of concern for the LGBTQ community as opposed to me being critical. Is that very quickly the parade and the celebrations turn into a display of indulgence as opposed to a celebration of.
It becomes hedonism very quickly.
Yes, and
if debauchery, if not fetishism. If we're going to get into nastier territory, what is the built-in stereotype that has come with people who like to oppress gay and lesbian people? That they're not just people who happen to prefer their own sex. They're perverts and they're gross. That is what is attached. Well, there's a self-hatred attached to something, to like overcompensation in a way.
They're somehow ill and perverted, and they're mentally ill, and they have distorted thinking, blah blah blah. I just don't think like any type of behavior that would then reinforce those ideas is a good idea too. Because what I have realized in my development of being what I think a pretty fair-minded guy to all walks of life is that, and we've talked about this fella Daryl a couple times, but the black dude who goes around collecting Klan hoods and he said, the secret is I just talked to them and they really quickly realize their ideas of how a black guy is different than them in some way, in any way it might be. They realize that's not true. We're all just dudes. We all have the same exact thing. It might come with a little different twists of these knobs here and there, but I'm just a human being. And the quicker people would realize that about who are openly anti-gay, the quicker they could realize that about the gay community, the better, in my opinion.
So what you're saying is we take every gay out for coffee and we go, hey, we're just as horny as you. I mean, we want it just as bad.
When it comes to moral issues of any type, whether it be political, when it becomes like what do you believe is socially acceptable, what isn't, all of it boils down to experience. As opposed, this is not essentially the basis of Clockwork Orange was that you can't learn moral ideas or moral issues intellectually. You can't teach someone how to be. They have to learn it through experience. That's the only way. And I'll take the fucking Pepsi challenge. I grew up in probably the most diverse environment on the planet, or at least in the top 3. Like I said, I'll take a pedestrian, blonde, blue-eyed white person was by far the minority to me. I grew up in and like I said, lots of exposure to gay and lesbian stuff just as a part of my natural life, right? The only way I got to be appreciative or understanding of anything, whether it be different cultures, whether it be different sexual proclivities, whether it be different lifestyles, was through being around those people and experiencing it. There's no amount of books, and that's one of the biggest problems with what I see with like kind of the outwardly woke community is that you think you can browbeat people or have slogans or books or YouTube videos that's going to teach people to be tolerant, teach people to be. That doesn't work that way. You just got to go and live your best life and hope that because there's no changing most people. And also there needs to be, especially for the younger community, and this is not relegated to just the gay community or the LGBTQ community. This is all people who have a bone to pick, right, in modern America. Tolerance doesn't mean enjoyment. All you are guaranteed by being an American, and you should have, like all of us should have, regardless of the color of your skin, your religion, or who you choose to bed, is tolerance. People don't have to like it. Tolerance does not mean I celebrate you being gay. I love black people. It just means I have to, by virtue of America, I have to tolerate it because that's what you want to do. I don't have to like it. And the sooner like I said, because I don't believe it's coming from, I think motives are really pure. That's one of the things I really dislike about this kind of like red pill society is that the younger kind of really outwardly woke people, they think that it's all like political. I think the political machines do that. They cherry pick and they exploit certain feelings and ways of life for their own gain. I think most college age kids and high school kids, they just want a world where everybody loves each other. I genuinely think their motives are pure. I think they're fucked up because they're young and dumb and they act out in ways but I think the motives of most young kids nowadays is actually really pure and beautiful.
Yeah, they don't want people left out.
They grew up in a world where it was like way more accepted of everything.
Mm-hmm. Their acceptance levels are way higher.
And so they're just like, how can you adults even for 1 second have a problem with this person's lifestyle, blah, 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 blah. This person's skin.
That's Charlie with an I, and yeah. Charlie, helped me with my math test.
Yeah, how about we just go about it? Now, the way they go about carrying it out gets distorted. And by the way, that's all young people. The way I thought and the way I've gotten arguments when I was 19 was all fucked up. I may have had pure motives, but I may have thought what I was thinking or what I believed in life was was pure, and it was, but the way I carried it out, the way I expressed myself, the way I behaved was always fucked up. But getting back to the point was just that the ACLU, I forget, this was before I was born, but it was right before. This is the mid-70s, I believe. I could be off on that, but this is 100% true. You can verify it. There was a proposal for neo-Nazis to protest and have their procession where they, they talk about how terrible the Jews are, and they fucking do Nazi shit. I'm not big into the supremacist world. I don't know how they. But this was openly neo-Nazi groups, skinheads that wanted to proceed through town, espousing their ideas and beliefs. The townspeople were like, dude, we don't want your kind here. Okay. The ACLU, which is probably besides maybe up there with the Anti-Defamation League, that's the most prominent civil rights group for representing Jewish people in this country. They fought to give them the ability to have their parade and their procession. They fought for the neo-Nazis to do it. And their belief was, they're like, no, we can't pick and choose freedom of speech. We despise their ideas, but if we close their mouths, if we handcuff them from just giving out their ideas, it's making the problem much worse. You should watch them walk down the street talking about the Jews are the worst and the Zionists did this and anti-Semitic that, and go, I'm like, look at these idiots, and let them do their thing. Tolerate it. You don't have to like it. That's what there has to be kind of an open-ended idea of tolerance, not enjoyment. Because there's a lot of shit, and most of it is not serious. There's a lot of shit I don't like, but I tolerate it. I really, really don't like a lot of extreme open-mindedness to certain government policies and structures, in the sense that you're so anti-modern American culture. You have anti-capitalist ideas, right? And that's fine. Lord knows you probably got a couple good reasons to be so. But then you're outwardly promoting this neo-anarchistic socialism, right? Which never made sense to me. How could you, socialism being about like the prominence of the government involved, anarchism about no government involvement or no government existence? But there's this modern like socialist push and Marxism and stuff like that. That gets on my case. It really gets under my skin. You should have every right to go out there and say it and believe in it. This is America. But that shit gets under my skin. Why? Because I've been to shitty places. I've seen certain forms of government practices and how fucked up people's lives were. And I personally benefited greatly because I got back to America and I was like, oh, whoa, this is so good. I'm so grateful. Now, does that mean that if you're in there like studying Karl Marx and you love China and you love Venezuela and you think that Che Guevara is great? No, awesome. Put up all your posters of Che Guevara and wear your shirt and go listen to Rage Against the Machine, and that's your thing. It bothers me, but so what? I tolerate it because this is fucking America. Thank you.
Such a good band.
Rage Against the Machine?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, now, like, if you're super right wing, you have pictures of Ronald Reagan on your wall. Okay, I get like where but you can't deny when they were at their peak. There's an old video of when one of their first performances at Cal State Fullerton, and they're just playing in like the quad at Cal, and you're like, whoa, that's like the first time you guys are performing publicly, and they're so tight and they're so committed to fucking rocking.
Think about all the artists that you would love if politics didn't exist. Even more.
I do. Anyway, I can see beyond that. Because I don't.
I'm a huge fan of Alec Baldwin as an actor.
I think he's a misunderstood guy. I agree because on camera he's hard to fuck with.
It's the subtleties, the movement.
He's great. Yeah. He's great, and he does it. But here's where I'll give Alec Baldwin. Now with this newest situation, he killed a guy.
Pre that.
I was not there. I don't know what the ins and outs of that were, and I'm not about to comment. I'm talking about other stuff where he get like messages leaked, voice messages where he's talking shit about his daughter and stuff. I have feelings about it, but I also go like, I don't know him personally. I'm not going to rush to judgment on the guy. Blah blah blah. And I do that with everything until there's a barrier. You beat the shit out of women if you harm children in any way. I don't need to know you personally. Like, we're done. But outside of that, people cheat and they talk down to their co-stars, and I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I don't know the whole story. But I've met Alec, but he came on Loveline once. He is a legitimately smart guy. He's not a dummy, and he was very engaging and very interested in what I had to say, which for a celebrity of his status, often doesn't come that way. They're like, let me do my job and get out of here. So I think he's a misunderstood guy, much like the conversation we were having about John Jones. I think what we know of John Jones is probably not really who he is as a man.
Well, my favorite Alec Baldwin anecdote is I think he's teaching a NYU acting class, and Shia LaBeouf is there auditing it, and or like it's something. They're both there for some reason, and he's like, "It's day 2. You come off book." Yeah. And he's just because Alex just free reading with a lot of the class, and Shia just digs into him, and he knew the entire script walking in there, like day 2 of that class.
Another guy I really like, and that's a controversial figure, Shia LaBeouf. Yeah. I've had the luxury of meeting him a couple times. He's a pretty cool cat. Now, again, I don't know what these controversial things had happened in his personal life. I don't know how they played out because all I hear is stories and reporting. But he's a misunderstood guy that I think, and certainly has a committed behavior that I don't agree with. But I also don't think like people make him the biggest of all is Louis. Do I think it's appropriate to jerk off in front of chicks? No, probably not. Do I think it's a statement about him being an immoral person when he invited them up, asked them if he could, and then did it? I don't. I don't think that makes him a immoral fella. I think he's got some weird fucked up sex shit. But now Louis been put into the Harvey Weinstein territory. I mean, he lives in that world, and I was like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, two completely different things.
It's like, what are we doing here? Like, I'm not saying
he's closer to Aziz.
Yeah, way closer. He's there's
the fact that is the spectrum is insane, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
like we just have anecdotes of people in time, and we just place them somewhere.
Yeah.
In
How is that how are they the bookends?
Well, I think the bookend is probably what's his name who did the carving in the legs and like ate part of them. B-list, C-list celebrity.
Oh, Armie Hammer?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Armie Hammer's fucked up. Armie Hammer's genuinely. I just watched an interview with him recently, like one of his first interviews since the controversies. That man needs to see a professional.
Him and then a guy from That 70s Show.
Oh no, Danny Masterson?
Yeah.
From what I understand, Danny Masterson's a sexual assault machine.
Right. So like that's that Weinstein.
Oh, okay.
They're like the Weinstein plus.
Yeah, like the Harvey Weinstein Les Moonves world is so preposterously out there. Like the Cosby world. I don't even know how you can formulate an argument to defend those.
So you know how I talk about how I'm like the last like little guy who peeked into a generation before me of just like social cultural. I think they are for that of how shit really was. Like previously, like left over from 20s, 30s money, stardom, early Americana.
In that world, especially in Hollywood, like you hear stories about like how they treated Judy Garland, when they were making Wizard of Oz, like, and she was like a little kid. She was like a fucking freshman in high school. I think that was more par for the course than regular dudes who are just like maybe cheat on their wife here and there, or maybe
have trouble adapting to fame.
Yeah,
like, this is
call a woman a bitch every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? Like, where you go, like, okay, yeah, I don't like it, but come on, what are we doing here?
Right.
I think I think gross. I think, and this is just in the same way that I think Washington D.C. and Hollywood are very similar in this regard, is that there is two worlds, obviously federal politics and Hollywood being the entertainment industry, where in this huge city, they take a teeny portion of actual people who are involved in this machine, but the machine is so overwhelmingly powerful and makes so much money that it consumes the culture of the entire area around it. Like the amount of people who work in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles County is not that much. It's really not that much. The amount of pull those people have in everyday life is preposterous.
They shut down streets, alleys, business, like
preposterous. And I, from what I understand, very similar to living on K Street or around parts of areas around the White House. It's just the amount of people in Washington D.C., greater Washington D.C. area. It's probably a bigger percentage than Hollywood and L.A., but it's really, most people are truck drivers and mailmen and accountants and everything. But the amount of pull that these people have is so extraordinary that it makes it attracts, but it also breeds fucked up people.
Oh yeah.
But heaven forbid I talk about my rantings on politics and society all day. So I was going through my my Patreon clients, top tier Patreon clients, and analyzing some of the issues, right, that come up. And the most consistent one, and I found this I don't want to say it was surprising, but this is very illuminating to me, is that I have people that are really considerably overweight and are not very active, never really gone to the gym ever before with any consistency. I have people who are like CrossFit Games competitors that now want to just focus on their appearances. So I have a pretty big gamut of. I have one guy who I talk about, Mark, who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, who lives around here in the Austin area, and I train him via Patreon. Right? He showed up to me getting my graduation to purple belt. He showed up without telling me. He showed up there and then beat the fucking shit out of me. So I have a huge chasm of like the different lifestyles, but all of even the really motivated, really people with extensive training experiences, all the way down to people who have very little training and experience with fitness and nutrition, they all at some point complain about, I can't keep up with this. Kids, work, college, whatever. It starts to prevent you from just being as consistent as you would like to be. So today's show I want to devote to two things. One, talking about volume and frequency and how much people grossly exaggerate what the needs are. And then also how important it is to engage in things that are sustainable, even if you might suspect that they're not as much or as hard as you can do it. The adage I always point out is what you do at 75% optimum level 100% of the time will always beat what you do 100% optimally 75% of the time. Always. So if your diet is so restrictive and so down to the letter that you have to count every calorie and you're measuring everything and you never have the opportunity to go out to eat and you're bringing Tupperware into a restaurant and everything, and that's how you're going to go about it, there's only a matter of time before you're not going to be able to keep up with that. And then you're doing it 3 out of 5 meals a day, two out of 7 days a week. That's because it's just enough out of reach that you're never going to be able to keep up with it, right? It's like chasing. I watch my dogs, the Great Pyrenees that guard the ranch. If a bunny is copping along, we have a lot of bunnies out here for some reason, a lot of rabbits. Not for some reason, but that apparently it's broke. But I just was blown away that, like, you think you'd see squirrels and rabbit, and I see deer occasionally, and certainly lots of birds. There's so many goddamn rabbits on my land, like so many goddamn rabbits. It's crazy. They see one of those dudes, and they'll catch one 4 out of 10 times. If it doesn't get a good enough head start and can't make it to a gate where it can jump through a hole, like, they'll catch up to it. And so they're really motivated to keep going because it's just within their reach. It's just within their reach. Every once in a while, one gets away, but they know if they commit themselves, it's there and it's tangible. Squirrels, no chance. They don't stand a fucking chance. They're so fast and they're so low to the ground, and eventually they'll get to a tree and they'll get away. It's just a matter of time. So if my dogs got out in the morning and they're like, today, catching a squirrel, because I'm a big, powerful predator and I'm going to do that. You know, could it happen? Sure. But it's only a matter of time before their whole life is their whole purpose is thrown for a loop. So have the bunny, have the rabbit. Don't have the squirrel idea, because if you're a mom with a job and you do a fitness, a IFBB pro female physique competitor's diet and training, like, you're not going to keep going. It's not happening. It's only a matter of time before you start getting 75% of it, 50% of it. And that's way worse than something that is, to you, might seem like, I'm not training enough. I'm not being as strict as I should be with this diet. I think I could do better. But you do it every goddamn day. Every goddamn day. If you want to apply it into something that's a little bit less abstract, for a long time, when I was training at Crone Gracie's Academy in Culver City, back when he used to be in LA area, and I love Crone. He was awesome. He was a great teacher, and all the other black belts there that were teachers I loved it. It was a great environment. But I got so motivated, and I got so over the top with it that I was every moment that I wasn't on the mats, I was on YouTube studying different entries into submissions and different escapes constantly. I got a training dummy, and I'm going, and I got really obsessive. But I also I don't make a paycheck fighting or grappling or anything, right? So very quickly, I started to see, like, my fundamental abilities in grappling decline. And then I started to not go train as much because I was getting so neurotic and burning myself out on molehills that I lost sight of the mountain. I moved to Texas. I took a long layoff. I just didn't train in any grappling. I was still engaging in striking sports, stuff like that, and lifting weights and all that and fun stuff. But I took a layoff. And then I kind of palled out and got friendly with Tim Kennedy, and he got me to come in, start training again at his academy. And you know what I did? I made a commitment that at least 3 days a week I'm getting on the mats. And I'm going to listen when the professor is teaching, and I'm going to try to implement the fundamentals as best I can, and I'm going to roll while I'm there. And then I go and I leave behind. But that's all I'm committed to doing is I'm going to do. Sometimes I make it 6 days a week. Sometimes I would make it 3. I figured out a way to make it 3, but I made it 3. And after about 8 months, guess what? I got promoted to purple belt. And I started to feel a lot more confident about my abilities because I wasn't trying to train like Crone. I wasn't trying to train like Bushesha getting ready for a competition because I'm not getting ready for a competition. I was a blue belt who was just trying to understand the martial art a little bit. And I needed to just incrementally make gains and have accountability and consistency with something that was well within my reach, but pushed me. And if you're an overweight person that's not very active, believe me, getting to the gym twice a week, where for a very focused, committed 45 minutes, and just making sure that there's no opportunity for you not to do that, and then getting a little bit higher protein and monitoring your calories and walking every day, which is well within everybody's reach. Don't DM me and be like, I'm a computer programmer who adopted 7 children and my wife passed away. I can't even do that. I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry. God bless you. But people, when I say anyone can do that, I mean within reason. Okay, like I don't think 7,000 steps a day, where you can literally just take a 5-10 minute walk whenever you want, regardless of your line of work, unless you're like a long haul driver, getting your steps in and pumping iron twice a week is not something that people have a problem doing consistently. Because I'll reiterate, and one of the most important things I find when it comes to making a real difference, real noticeable difference in your physique and your health, is that doing stuff that you do no fail, no ifs, ands, or buts, like you would feed your children. There's no like, I think I'll get to feeding Magnolia today. Right? It's like, no, this is not like brushing your teeth. I think it was Arnold, or it was either Arnold or Bobby Maximus, either person I promote and I support everything they do. But they said, think of training and eating like brushing your teeth. You don't like contemplate, am I going to get to that today? Am I going to choose this sirloin over this pizza? You brush your teeth. You just brush it. It's a part of the deal. And if you make stuff so far excessive, so exceedingly outside of the daily natural way to go about things, then that's not going to work out for you. And whether it takes 6 months, whether it takes 6 weeks, whether it takes 6 hours, I've been that guy too, where it's like I download this blueprint of, sometimes professionals make it for me. And it's like all this coordinated cycle of shit that I need to run with diet and training program, daily cardio that has to come in cycles. And I'm always like, all right, I'm going to be the next IFBB pro. And like half the day later, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? As I'm driving to work, to my second job, I was like, what the fuck I'm not doing that. This is insane. And that is way worse than my 3 days a week program that I always hit. Always hit. People have this idea, and this is not outside my pay grade because I'm ripping this from mental health professionals. When people say, I can't do that, I can't do that. Well, that's not for me. Whether they say it publicly, whether they say it in their own mind. That's not true. Of course, within reason, right? If you're literally Brad Williams says, I can dunk, he's wrong. He's wrong. But you know what I'm saying? When you have this idea of like, I would love to get in better shape. I'd love to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu, right? I will give you this perfect example after I'm done explaining. The truth is you can do all these things you tell yourself I can't do. The difference is you have not psychologically adapted into being able to do that. I had a situation on the farm the other day. Chainsaw broke. And I thought the chain just came off, right? Turns out there was a bad problem with the clutch, and I had to actually take the chainsaw apart and put it back. And I got it to work. Changed the spark plugs, cleaned everything out. I changed the whole clutch, or little like clutch knob. And I went online and I went back to the instruction manuals and I watched YouTube video and I fixed it. And I got it working again. And it worked great. If my shop vac broke down, I would say to myself, I can't fix that shit. Why? Because it's an electrical machine. But the amount of, I don't necessarily know exactly how to do this, but I'm pretty sure I could piece it together with the chainsaw was extraordinary. And I never stopped. I never gave up. I was like, oh, eventually I'm going to fix this. Okay, this is providing me problems, but I'm going to fix it. Why? I worked in garages my whole life. Before I got into radio, I worked in garages. I've never worked. And when I worked in garages, I had no problem having real expert mechanics show me how to do everything mechanical. Removing intake manifolds, changing oils, whatever it may be. I was kind of there and I could piece it together and I go, oh, and I had a lot of experience with it. And I had a psychological adaptation to, I can do this. I may not know exactly how now, but I can do this. Give me a sec. I have no fucking experience with electrical shit. Like really no experience. The gate, the electric gate, by the way, this is fucking, the water delivery guy drove through my electric gate, broke it. Okay. I was like, what the fuck? Luckily, he was really nice and apologetic. He didn't try to make some. He's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't see a chain around it. I thought it was one that you could push open. And I was like, okay, big mistake. I mean, he was a young kid, too. He was like, he's college age, you know. So he gave me the company's business card. And he's like, if anything costs money, I'm sorry, please call. I'm sorry, you know, and you can blame me. Turns out I was like, no, I think I can. Because it was just, like I said, mechanical things. The hinge that holds the gate got pushed, and then the arm that holds the mechanical part, the electric gate opener, got like distorted its line, and I just had to reset and all that shit and everything. That's what I thought. So I reset all it, and I get it out to the maxes and the extremes of open and close, and I go to do it again, and there's been some electrical problem, and I was like, I didn't even try. I didn't even fucking try of like opening up the panel and looking at wires. Went online, I saw and it's like red M wire, X blue wire. I was like, fuck this. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to electrocute myself. So my point being is like, you could be a mother of two who also teaches 6th grade. Okay? Just off the top of my head, there's some shit that came into and you let yourself get a little out of shape. And you say to yourself, but I can't do that. I can't get in shape. I can't lose weight and gain muscle. Like, this is fucking outside of my abilities. And I'll be like, you deal with 6th graders for 8 hours a day, 9 months a year, and you manage that situation? You've been doing this for how long? 7 years? Oh, okay. So you got through college, you got a degree in education, and then now you're teaching the wildest fucking assholes there is, and you managed to control all that, and you had a human come out of your vagina, and then took a breather, and we're like, whoo, all right, now let's go to feeding this thing and keeping it alive. Why? Because you psychologically adapted to doing that. That's what was in your kind of psychological purview, that like, I'll do what it takes. I may not be great at it first, but I psychologically have built upon this and adapted to doing it. And that's, my brain sees it as what I can do and what I'm used to. That's the reality. I've been lifting weights and watching what I eat for fucking decades. And just like reading T-Nation and bodybuilding magazines and books and everything, and talking to professionals and trying to collect information. And it's just something I do. It doesn't really get under my skin in any way. It doesn't feel like I'm pushing. It's just so normalized to me. When I started training in jiu-jitsu, which is also a kind of a physical endeavor, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I have not psychologically adapted to the feeling of someone pressuring me like that. I didn't grow up wrestling. I played football. I played baseball. Played soccer. I didn't wrestle. I have any experience with people squeezing my body and pushing their head into my face and being that type of tired. I pushed myself, my work capacity. I'd never been grappling tired, where I'm holding static holds and everything and trying to do that and then explode up. And then I was so fucking tired. I said, I don't think I can do this. The reality is, like, I was a really able-bodied, kind of athletic, naturally athletic guy who lifted weights for a long time. I totally could do this. I just got to get over it and get better and get on the mats more and psychologically adapt to. Giorgio came and trained with me last week and just kind of get used to the fact that a kid who grew up wrestling, who's really good at it, who now teaches other people how to wrestle, is just going to take is going to get better angles on me. Okay. It was that's life. Okay, but I got a couple tricks up my sleeve and I'm strong. I could get my hips, give me a little space, do something.
Very strong.
Thank you, sir. 15 years ago, I'd be like, well, I can't do this. I can't do this. But my brain has adapted to thinking, yeah, I can. I mean, I might not be great at it now. I can do this. If you asked me to sculpt something, I'd probably be like, I don't know. I don't want to show something that I sculpted in public. You asked me to paint a picture, draw a picture, I'd be like, okay, let's go. I may not be Van Gogh, but I bet you I could put something together. Why? I've psychologically adapted to the fact that I can make my brain think of creative things and draw or paint them. I've done it since I was a little kid. I've never taken an art lesson or anything. It's something I've psychologically adapted to.
Next episode, we get you some Play-Doh. You sculpt for half the episode?
Yes, just to show people that it only takes a matter of time.
Overcome your fears.
I did sculpt a statue of Rocky shitting glitter a couple months ago. I put it up on Instagram. So, I mean, I will give it I'll hack it.
Do you have an Etsy?
No, but I should.
You should.
Rocky Shitting Glitter is, by the way, my next album. And also, but, you know, like there's another, and I'm not trying to like talk about me and my positive attributes. But back in my morning radio days, Kevin and Bean, they would throw out ideas like, wouldn't it be funny if? And a lot of times you're like, well, yeah, but that's insane. Okay. We came up with an idea, just spitballing, and it was for Coldplay tickets, right? And one of the ideas Kevin and or Bean or Ralph came up with was, what if we do like karaoke, but with piano lines? Like we'll get a cheap keyboard, like a shitty one, and we'll play like hit Coldplay songs, and the listener has to guess it. And if they can guess it, they win. I was like, oh, it's a great idea. Does anybody play piano? And nobody raised their hands. I go, I read music. And I've been playing instruments. I've been playing bass and guitar and string instruments for a long time. I've never played piano, but I can read music, and I could do this. I can do this. Sure enough, did. It was called Cassiope. In fact, we never did it again because I made them sound too automatically recognizable.
It was too easy.
Yeah, and I was like, thank you. Kevin and Bean were mad. They're like, fucking dude, everyone got it right. And I was like, yeah, sorry. But
sorry, I'm a musician. I did good.
Inside my brain, or inside my heart and everything, I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I did it too. But I would never do that if they were like, could you do like the Dave Grohl drum off contest? I'd be like, no, are you fucking out of your mind? There's no way I could do that. Right? Like you do have to do like recognizable drum lines from Foo Fighters and Nirvana songs. I'd be like, no, not Foo Fighters, I guess, because he doesn't play the drums for Foo Fighters, but Queens of Stone Age and Nirvana. Right? Like, I'd be like, no, are you fucking out of your mind? I wouldn't even contemplate it. Could I maybe in months? Maybe, but I have not developed a psychological adaptation to believe in myself and my ability to do it. So I just wanted to hammer that home. It's psychological adaptation is so much more powerful than you even realize. And you may be sitting here and being like, I'm 5'7", 240 pounds. I can't have a bikini body. I can't have, beach ready body. Oh, you fucking can. You just, in order to achieve that body, done a lot of behavior that doesn't let you psychologically adapt to what it means to have the patience in a physical sense. Because all these people say like, that's not for me, I can't do that. I'll point out 7 other things in your life that far exceed my abilities in every way. Far exceed. My friend is an electrician. And I was just talking to him about his job. And I was like, I could never do that. I said it out loud. I said, I could never fucking do that. And I used it as a point to make, because he's heavy. He's not an alcoholic or anything, but he's a heavy drinker, drinks every night, gets home from work, eats pizza and fast food all day. And he's asking me about how to get in shape. And then I was like, okay, tell me about your job. And I go, you know You do that. That's fucking hard. And you don't die. You don't blast yourself off a ladder with electric shock. And you work with a live electricity all day. Okay. You do that. So you're telling me you can't train a couple days a week and watch what you eat? Sure, you fucking can. You just don't believe it. You haven't psychologically adapted to doing so. All right. That being said, because of psychological adaptation and sustainability being so important, I am releasing my new program based around you're going to do it 100% of the time and you're going to get fucking wild results that you don't even believe are possible. And I'm wondering, the last one I did was called 4x4. It was easy because it's 4 exercise twice or 3 times a week done for 1 working set. So you get 4 working sets, 4 exercise, 4x4. And I was like, that's a clever name. This one, it's 2 days a week and you do 2 working sets. And I'm thinking of either calling it Take Off Your Tutu or Deuces. Should I call it Deuces? What should we call it, Giorgio?
Reloaded.
Explain.
Matrix 2.
Oh. I'm sorry. I'm not a guy.
Squared.
Squared's good. Is there a famous athlete who's 22? Number 22.
Oh, you could call it Taylor Swift. I'm feeling 22.
It's called the Taylor Swift. 2 days a week, you're going to lift weights, full body workout. 2 days a week, you're going to do a sprinting workout. 2 days a week, you're going to do a slow aerobic-based workout. That's it. Now you say, I can't train 6 days a week. Yes, but you're training. You're going to the gym twice a week for like 30, 45 minutes. Then you're doing 15 minutes twice a week, to maybe 10, 15 minutes of a sprint workout. Just getting your hormones elevated and getting yourself really pushing yourself in your work capacity. And then 2 days a week, you're going for a nice hike or a long walk. Or a jog if you're so inclined. And every single workout is about 30 minutes at the most, 45 minutes if you're really, need to take your time, you're dragging. Some of them are even shorter. So it's called, now that I think about it, it's 2-2-2.
Well, it's 2, but it's a hidden 6. Just like Taylor Swift.
Hidden 6.
Because she's not that hot.
Oh. You're saying that because she's Taylor Swift. If you and I didn't know her and we were like at a bar tonight and she walked in, you'd be like, look at that hottie.
Would you?
Yeah. I mean, she has a cute, unique thing. No, you're right. Is she Dua Lipa where you're like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Right.
I remember before Dua Lipa got famous, she was just starting her career. I was like, who's this model that sings? This is impossible. But Taylor, she, like I said, Jay Moore made this comment one time. He was on the radio with me, and I was clowning Sarah Jessica Parker, and he's like, "You're saying that because she's a Hollywood actress. If your friend was married to Sarah Jessica Parker at like the peak Sex and the City, and you met his wife for the first time, you'd be like, oh, his wife's a hottie." I was like, okay, you might be, and I have a feeling like you say that about Taylor Swift because you're like, look. If your friend was dating Taylor Swift and she was not famous, and she showed up at the dinner, they'd be like, look, his wife's really pretty, or his girlfriend's really pretty, Yeah,
she's really pretty.
Yeah, no, when people would be like Taylor Swift's smoking hot, like no,
but then your rich friend comes with his like Brazilian girlfriend who barely speaks English.
Yeah, no,
and her toe-hold sandals,
and that's another thing you women don't get about guys. And by the way, this goes for gay guys too. There's such a vast chasm between pretty, attractive, and sexy. Giorgio and I, we're like, hey, Taylor Swift's pretty. Or like, you name the Hollywood actress that girls is like, she's so beautiful. I'd be like, she's attractive, Giorgio and I would walk over broken glass to sniff Ana de Armas.
Yeah,
no chick would be like, she's so beautiful.
Commit fraud, like the amount of things you would ruin your life for.
If you're
at an attempt.
Ana de Armas is like, if you walk over this broken glass, you can touch my private parts. I'd be like, who needs feet anyway?
How many miles?
Yes, and that I like chicks. I don't think they get that because as far as like how they rate straight women, how they rate other women. You know, when you hear like back in the day when I was in high school and college, it was Gwyneth Paltrow is like perfect. And I was like, don't get me wrong, she's pretty. She's a pretty woman, clearly. But like Megan Fox in for the first Transformers, you were like, whoa, what are we fucking doing? I have to go home.
See, if women had men's brain, she would say something like, I would learn to breathe underwater for Jason Momoa.
Yes.
No woman has ever said that, unfortunately.
Well, no, there's chicks they're all about the dong, and that, but it's such a small amount of like guys who are classically beautiful in the eyes of women, and then but that's unfair because I think there's like Benicio del Toro's and shit who are sexy to a lot of women that you and I be like, well, it's not. That's
or
not.
have they just gaslit themselves? Well, I don't know, because there's dudes who like all different varieties and flavors.
It's true, but the extent to which, because I see it with my wife, who's in Hollywood, who is an actress, the extent to which she'll be like, "Oh my god, I met my co-stars on the set for the first day on set. This girl is she's so cute." And I meet her, I was like, "Yeah, she's fine." And then there's times where you're like, "What?" It's not appropriate for me to be here anymore.
It's bad for our marriage for me to continue to be.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, what are we doing?
Don't stand beside her.
And I've had guests, not as much on Loveline as when like I'd be on Access Hollywood, and Drew Barrymore would be a guest, and I'd be like, "Oh, she's so pretty." In real life, she's such a beautiful lady, And then Isa Gonzalez would come on, and I'd be like, "What are we?" I don't know. Like, can you guys take over here? Because like, this is what the fuck. You are so hot. I'm really weirdly conscious of my behavior.
Yeah, you want to cover your stomach. You literally go to flight mechanism. You're like,
yeah. And that's, I don't know. I don't think straight women understand that about straight men. Like the chasm to which you can recognize, like the number one of this is Claire Danes. Even back when I was in high school, like My So-Called Life, when it was like she blew up first, I was like, she's pretty. She is. I can objectively look at her and be like, what an attractive person. I have zero desire to have sex with her. There's zero desire for me to be like, I want. And then there's other people in the total opposite direction, where it's like, I don't even know she's pretty, but I want to bang her so bad.
Zooey Deschanel.
Zooey Deschanel's really pretty. In person especially. Yeah. She's really pretty. But also, I've tried my best to just be open and but not be a gross jerk. But I don't know how I go. She has, in person, you meet her, she has shockingly big boobs. Like, you're like, whoa, I did not know that was cooking there.
Go on.
I'm just saying, because
another woman, surprisingly big boobs, Judge Judy, I found out.
Judge Judy's massive boobs, from what I understand.
Yeah, I saw her in like a skin tight dress.
Yeah.
And like one of my favorite things now is just like black guys who commentate on this stuff on the internet.
It is.
And Judge Judy can get it.
Internet commentary is like dancing. Black guys are just better at it.
Yeah, you just want to watch it.
I don't know
more.
why. Yeah. And he's so right. There's one guy I watch who just watches like horror movies, like good but bad horror movies, and he's black dude, and he just shits on people, and I'm like, I could watch this all day. For some reason, I don't find it, even for like talented, funny white dudes. I don't.
Yeah, professional, no, just a black guy.
Yeah, it's just they're just somehow better at it. I totally agree. And by the way, if you go, not all black people are better at dancing. Okay, maybe, but have you ever? There's a documentary about Rumble in the Jungle. Okay, the Muhammad Ali fight. And there's a documentary about said fight. And it was in Zaire. It was a part of Africa. It was a very remote part. It wasn't a highly populated big city or anything. It was like, these are tribal people in Africa. And Muhammad Ali goes out to visit them and just get to know the local people. And by the way, Muhammad Ali's so fucking endlessly riveting to watch on camera. And these kids, because one of Muhammad Ali's crew had a portable boombox, and they were playing like Muhammad Ali, like regal Muhammad Ali music for him to like walk amongst the people. But then they put on like James Brown or something, like some soul R&B music. And all these kids in a tribe in Africa who didn't have access to popular music ever in their life just start perfectly like breaking it down, like breaking it off. And you're like, oh, well, I'm not saying there's all biology there, but there's something there.
It's the extra muscle in their leg.
Is it? Here's another thing. I want you to go pick a date in the 60s, 70s, or 80s where both... No, I think Soul Train only came into the 70s. So in the 70s or early 80s, pick a date. And then go watch from that date an episode of Soul Train. And after you're done doing that, you go watch an episode from the same date or same week of American Bandstand. And you tell me if there's not a fucking difference.
Top of the pops.
All right. 2 times a week, pump iron full body training. 2 times a week, a sprint workout. 2 times a week, a long, slow aerobic workout in zone 2. And it covers all your bases. It takes very little amounts of your time. And you can totally do this without finding it unsustainable. Regular people with kids and jobs and lives and the whole thing. You can do it. And you can be accountable for it. Because you can get home from work at late night and it's like, maybe, yeah, I'm a little too tired. But believe me, you can go for a 30-minute brisk walk, 45-minute brisk walk if you didn't get to it. You can go out and sprint up a hill or flat for like 10 minutes. I'm talking 4 to 5 sprints. Because that's all you can really do for sprints when you're talking about fat loss and hormones and stuff like that. And then twice a week, you make it to the gym. You get, 30, 45 minutes in, full body. It's the program I'm currently doing. So it's not a do as I say, not as I do. I'm currently doing it. It's all available at my Patreon, which I will put a link to. You'll have access to that at pretty much all levels. But if you're interested in more assistance, you can sign up for the top tier. And thank you so much to Giorgio, who makes this show a reality, and to you who tunes in. Like, subscribe if you enjoy the show. I'd really appreciate it. And in this crazy mixed up world that makes you think that nobody cares, remember, I do. Be good.